Now, I get this question a lot from international students who are wanting to study in the UK, but also from UK residents who are wanting to audition but just can't readily attend in-person auditions. Are in-person auditions better than digital auditions? The big fear, of course, is that you are going to be penalised or that you are not going to be taken as seriously as somebody who is auditioning in person if you opt for a digital audition. And they worry that this is going to be the thing that stops them from getting an offer at a UK school, which in the end is exactly what they want. So I can understand where they're coming from because it is such a competitive environment. And you want to have every advantage that you can to stand out from the crowd. So we're going to spend this video unpacking this idea and demystifying it. So hopefully you have a better understanding of what is or is not a preference. So let's start out by saying that there are actually pros and cons to both an in-person audition and to a digital audition, because nothing is ever perfect, sadly. Obviously, when you're in person, you have the opportunity to interact with your audition panel and potentially other actors auditioning alongside you. And that would be in a workshop setting or doing duologues or just kind of hanging out in the corridors. And that's all experiences that you don't get in a Zoom call. But if you are far away and you opt to do an in-person audition, you are sacrificing travel costs, time, energy, time outside of work and study and other responsibilities. And with digital auditions, you do to an extent get to control the space that you audition in because it's an environment that you feel comfortable in. It also means that you don't have to fill a large audition studio space vocally and physically that you would be expected to do if you do an in-person audition. Nerves might actually be slightly different depending on how you feel about each medium. Because I personally feel a lot less nervous when I do a digital audition than when I do an in-person audition. It also gives me the opportunity to completely sign off from the audition, the Zoom room, and get on with my day instead of having to travel home afterwards and ruminate on how the audition went. So I get to put the audition to rest a lot sooner. Now, you are going to have a personal preference for what feels easiest, what feels most accessible, and what feels like more of a benefit to you. But I know that you didn't click on this video because you were wanting to figure out your own preference. You clicked on this video because you want to find out what the panel's preference is. And that is the thing I get asked a lot. And like I said, it is a fear that the panel prefer you to be in person and that they only recall or offer places to people who show up in the flesh. Now, firstly, there are schools that only run in-person auditions. Now, that might just be at recall stages or it might be from their first ever stage. And they have their reasons for that, and that is totally fine. But what you need to know is that it is particular to those schools and not something that carries across the board. Now, for the schools that offer a choice, i.e. you have the option of doing an in-person audition or the option of doing a digital live audition with a panel, I am going to say this very slowly. I'm going to hold your hand when I say it, and I'm going to say it with love, and I'm going to say it with respect. If they offer both options, then they deem both options to be valid for gauging your readiness and suitability for training. Seriously though, think about it. If they didn't think that a live digital audition was a valid option, why the fuck would they offer it? It would be a waste of your time. It would be a waste of their time. It would be a totally hopeless exercise. You gotta remember that the whole way through COVID, we weren't allowed to even be in the same room as each other. But still, somehow, we found cohorts full of people who auditioned for drama school and got in. Like, that process did not grind to a halt. And I think in a way, we can thank the COVID times, traumatic as they were, for solidifying this live digital audition within our process. It is a totally acceptable way of auditioning people because it forced schools to rethink their audition process altogether. Because up until that point, it was just an assumption that you had to be there in the flesh. And we as an industry, we as higher education, and we as society adapted. And we found a way of making it a positive part of the process. And it meant that we could see way more people who would ordinarily be left out of the loop, whether that was purely restrictions in geography, whether that was restrictions in time availability, and whether that was restriction in finance. It opened the doors and it lowered the bar to entry. And I and a ton of other drama schools agree. So trust me when I say that if a school offers a digital audition and that is the only option that you have available, then that is totally acceptable. They are happy with that as an option. I've taught at a number of drama schools for a number of years now, and those cohorts are made up of a mixture of actors who have auditioned in person and others who have auditioned from overseas. And they are all together in a year group in the same rehearsal room as equals, having been auditioned by the same panel in 2 different ways, because they value the talent and the personality of the individual, regardless of whether you are 5,000 miles away or a meter away. So the only thing for you to do now is to figure out what is an option for you and what you would prefer to do your best work on the day. Without taking into account what you presume the panel's preference is going to be, you've got to think about what your preference is, because it's your audition, not theirs. I hope this helped to clear up this subject. Now, if you've got more questions, or if you are looking to get some more insight or support, then I highly recommend signing up to my new online platform, act.cool. It is really going to help to elevate your audition practice, give you the edge, and help you stand out in a positive way in amongst a ton of competition this year. And there's some really lovely, supportive actors who are on this platform already that I think that you would really get along with. And all the information for this is in the description box below. But until next time,